Sarah.
Thanks, Terry. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. I hope you're going to get something out of my mute went on, sorry. Didn't press anything, sorry. I want you to take something away that's new. I want it to spark some ideas for you and really start to understand who your target audience is and what you can say to them in terms of your key messages. So today we're going to look at what target audience is and key messages, the definitions of both, and how they both link together as well. So it'll be a fairly shallow dive in. It might help you to reassure that you're doing some of the right things. It might give you some ideas to start some new things, or it might just be simply giving you some ideas to refresh. I'm not here to have a vibe of you're doing it all wrong and your business won't work without it. I'm not here for that. I just want you to be empowered and take some next steps and learn some things. So we've got a whole mix of industries here. I saw the attendees list, lots of people from different places. We've also got some fellow PR marketing and comms experts. So hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. We all love to learn from each other. And I would welcome any of your, if you want to unmute and add something that I may have missed, or you have, a note to add, please do, because we're all in the same industry. So there might be something, useful that you might want to add in. So let's get going. Charlie, can you get the presentation on for me, please? Thank you. Okay, this is who I am. So I run IzzyPR. I have done for about 8 years. And I'll just tell you a little bit about myself on the next slide, please, Charlie, just so you know my background and where I'm coming from. So I've spent 23 years in journalism, 15 of those have been in PR and marketing. And I've worked with a range of clients, which a range of companies, sorry, which will, if you move to the next slide, Charlie, we'll see those. I started off my career as a trainee reporter, went around the years, didn't know anything, working for local papers across the Kent Messenger, which is the big regional paper in Kent. I moved on to Kent Police, baptism of fire there in their comms team. I then moved on to an agency, big agency in Kent called Pillory Barn, left to have a baby in the middle, went back to Essex Police to be an online journalist. Then I worked at BBC Radio Kent on their breakfast show as a broadcast journalist, and that was helping put together their breakfast show. So finding guests, researching, interviewing guests, getting them prepped and ready for the show, and also recording and editing audio. I've worked for a charity. And the last contract job I had before I launched IzzyPR was NHS. So I've kind of done a kind of broad mix, really, which I feel helps me to run IzzyPR and have lots of input into those different places. Next slide, please, Charlie. So today we're going to talk about target audience and key messages. So there is a difference. We're going to talk about both. And the first one we're going to talk about on the next slide, thank you, is target audience. And it's essential that we know who our target audience is and the key messages, because if you don't, then you're going to be saying the wrong things to the wrong people at the wrong time, potentially. And this is your audiences across website, socials, your internal databases, mailers. So let's start with target audience. This is, as it says, the specific group or groups of consumers most likely to want your product or service. The first thing to say is that not everyone will want or need your product or service, and that's horrible to hear, I know, but you're likely to have different groups of audiences within your whole audience. They will have different reasons for buying your products. And part of this work you need to do is to work out who your target audiences are and know who will buy your products or sign up for your services and why. Your products or services will inevitably be solving a problem for them or be making their life easier. So you need to find out what their problem is before you know how your product or service is going to make things better for them. Next slide, please, Charlie. So we've got a mix of businesses here today. We've got B2B businesses and B2C. So I'll do a slide for each of you. On the B2B one, the first thing to say is that it's different to B2C. The main difference is that there may be several customers, so there are several decision makers, and you could have a decision maker, a buyer, you could have the end user. Whilst with B2C, it's normally one consumer, one person making a decision in the purchase. So B2B is slightly different. So when you're thinking about your target audience for your B2B companies, it's a good idea to have a look at these sections here as a place to start. So which industry or sector are they in? So for example, accountancy, it's a really big industry, but perhaps they're an accountant that only helps trades, only works with trades. So there's no point in them marketing to all of the trades, all of anyone who needs accountancy, sorry. They only want to have their target audience spoken to as trades. And likewise, if you're a PR company, you might only your specialism might be technology. So you're not going to go out there and tell everyone you do PR when your specialism is technology, because you'll get people asking you to do PR that you just aren't going to do because it's not technology. So be really clear on which industry it is you are trying to work with. The next one is the job role of the person. Who is the product or service for? It could be for senior level management, a facilities manager, a HR. Who is it you're talking to? Because you will need to talk to them very differently depending on who they are and what their needs are. It might be that your product or service is relatable to the size of the company in terms of employees or revenue. It might be that your company, your product or service is only relevant to a company with under 10 staff or over 100. It might be revenue related, over 1 million, under 1 million, startups. So there's that to consider as your target audience. Your product or service won't go across, is unlikely to go across all of them. So work out size as part of your research. The next one is location. So if you've got a face-to-face product, where can you deliver it to? There's no point marketing to anywhere that you can't deliver it to. So if you're delivering locally, you don't need to do global marketing. Likewise, if you're delivering globally, you don't need to just focus on a small location because you can deliver it anywhere. So it might be that your products and services are face-to-face or online. That will tell you where your target audience sits. And then you've got the last one, which is need, which is probably the main one. What do they need that you can offer? Because they have to be struggling with something, they have to be looking for a solution. So let's take the example of a bookkeeper. They want bookkeeping done on time. If you're not bookkeeper, if you're looking for bookkeeping, sorry, you want it done on time, you want it done well. You perhaps want to get your Sunday evenings back when you normally do it, or your Wednesday nights, or whatever it is. You don't want to worry that it's not getting done. You don't want it left for months. So if you're looking for a bookkeeper, you want them to be ticking all of those boxes for you. Similarly with a printer, if you're looking for a printer, your problem is you need stuff printed. Your problem might be you don't know what paper to print it on, what paper stock. It might be that you're always late with everything. So you need a printer who has an express service. So there's all these different things to consider. So if you are a printer and you know lots of people come to you late, which is a big thing in the industry, then your target audience is the late people, and you've got an express service to solve that problem. So that kind of whistle stops us through B2B. Charlie, can you move on to B2C for me, please? Thank you. So with the B2C, I've already said it's usually an individual consumer or a decision maker. It's not normally a handful of people. It might be if you're choosing a holiday, family car, whatever, but mainly it's a single decision maker. And there's various reasons why you might want to segment people into target audiences. These are a few of them. It's not all of them, but it's a good place to start. So it might be that your product or service is only relevant for someone of a certain age. Of course, the same product might be used by different ages, but there'll be different reasons. So you start to take that target audience of age and segment it out into different ages to suit the different reasons. Gender is another one. It might be that your product or service is only useful, practical, wanted by a particular gender. It might be for all genders. So when we come to key messaging, you'll have to make sure that you're telling each target audience what they need to know in relation to their gender. And I would say on this one, that, you know, we're using different pronouns now, so whatever your views are of what can sometimes look like a bit of a confusing situation, the fear of getting it wrong, make sure that you are speaking to all of your audience in the ways they want to be spoken to. If you don't, you will lose them. But if you do, then obviously you're the company, you could be the company for them, because you're talking in a language that they want to be spoken to and appreciate. So try and get that stuff right. It's important. Income, it could be that your product or service is targeted to different incomes. So it could be a lot or it could be a little. It could be that people want to spend a lot of money on it. It could be that they don't want to spend a lot of money on it. So look at income and budget. You know, what money have people got available for this product or service? Location pops up again. This came up for the B2C crowd as well. Again, if you can only deliver it to certain people in a certain way, then only target those audiences where you can actually deliver it to. It can be reputationally damaging if you say you can deliver it and you can't, whether that's postal or face-to-face or online or whatever it is. And then life stage. Now, obviously, we all start at 0 and we all get to whatever we get to. There's all different life stages in there. So whilst babies aren't consumers, there's somebody buying stuff for them. So you've got a baby market, you've got products and services for children, for teens, when you get into your decades, 20s, 30s, into being a parent, grandparent, a choice not to have children, start of a career, middle of it, end, retired people. There's so many different life stages, and it's a good idea to think about how your product and service might fit into that. It won't necessarily be a consideration for all businesses, but it's a good one to look at. So, for example, with financial products, there's so many of them out there. You've got children's pensions, you've got products for teenagers when they start to get their pocket money. I've got an 11-year-old, she's using Go Henry, perfect, teaching her how to handle her money, and, you know, mostly she spends it, but, you know, that's what it's there for. And then when you're in your 20s, perhaps you'll have different requirements to know about. When you're in your 30s, again, you might have different ones. As you go through your life, you're developing everything, your career, maybe your family, maybe instead of having a family, your choice is to go on holiday and pursue a hobby or do a business. You know, or don't ever think, oh, you know, family, it's not for everyone. Not everyone's doing that. There are other things to consider. Don't alienate your audiences by saying the wrong messages. Again, with finances, you've got parents who might be looking at inheritance tax, grandparents doing the same thing, or relatives, friends looking at savings for kids when they're born. So within that life stage, there's so many different target audiences to have a look at. There's lots more. You could look at heritage, nationality, where they go on holiday, how they commute. It's just finding what is relevant to them and putting people in these target audience segments. Can we go to the next slide, please, Charlie? So once you've got your target audiences mapped out, you need to start looking at these things. So what's their problem? Well, I'm going to use an example of a first aid company. So a company's problem might be that they need their staff to be first aid trained. They don't know how to do it. They need someone to come in and do it. They might need someone to come and do it face to face. They might not be able to get their team over to a training facility. So there's different problems. So they're looking for a desired solution. What is their desired solution? So for a company, for example, they want first aid training that qualifies people to where they need to be. They have to have it on site because they can't get everyone to a training facility. So they're looking for someone who does remote training. That could be your company. And the next thing is, how do you offer the solution they want? So what's the outcome they're looking for? The outcome they're looking for is for their people to be trained, qualified, correctly qualified, within a budget, and preferably, you know, on site. They can't move everybody about. So that if you use these 4 sections, and I'll show you it on a table in a second, it helps you to start mapping out what their problems are, what solution is you've got, how you offer it, and then at the end of it all, that everything's solved and everything's done. Just as an aside on this one, it's worth listening to feedback. If you're able to gather feedback on why a sale isn't made, why people don't buy, what's stopping them making the purchase, it could be something you could change to turn those people who aren't buying into buyers. So, for example, this first aid company, they might not offer mental health first aiders, and it might be that the company wants that. If you're hearing it frequently, oh, do you do mental health first aid, and you keep saying no, 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 it should ring an alarm bell in your head that actually maybe you should be doing it, because if it's being asked for, provide it, because obviously once you've provided one service to a company, you could then be their supplier of choice for the rest of the duration. It could be a long relationship. So by offering that one service, you then extend the value of what you offer them over that lifetime relationship. Next slide, please, Charlie. So now this is a table I've created for IzzyPR to sort of highlight how to fill this in. I can share a blank version of this afterwards if you'd like it. And this really, have a look at the first 2 columns, the problem and the desired solution. So I've mapped out most of the reasons, most of the problems people have, which is what causes them to pick up the phone or get in touch with IzzyPR. So the problems are they can't write well, they don't have time to write, they can't think of the ideas, they don't know how to do it all, they're doing other stuff, they're running the business, or they just don't have anyone to do it. Again, they might be a sole trader or have a few people in the business, they've all got their jobs, and marketing and writing just doesn't come into it. So what they want is the desired solution. So if they can't write well, they want someone who does write well, who makes it make sense, does it for the right target audience. If they don't have time to write, they just want to pass it on to someone who has got time. If they can't think of the ideas, they just want someone to step back and go, right, here's the ideas, here's what we need to talk about, here's what we need to write about. If they don't know how to do it all, how to piece it all together, it might be they can write a blog, but they then can't turn it into social media or content for a mailer or advertising or something. They don't know how to repurpose that one piece of content. Or they don't have anyone to do it. It might be, like I said, everyone's got their role in the company and nobody has this on their list. So that's what they're looking for. They want someone to just take it on. So for us, from these problems, we've worked out our target audience. So we've got companies that don't have a marketing function, they don't have a need for one, they don't want to employ someone for it. We've got companies who have got a marketing team, but just need a bit of extra support sometimes. We've got sole traders who just, as I said, don't have this role, don't have capacity for it, and just outsource the whole lot. We've got companies who have up to now done their own marketing, maybe they're 2 or 3 years in, maybe 5 years in, and they just want to up the game, hand it over, get it all done. We work with web developers. They put the websites together, but often people come to them and say, oh, make me a website, and who's going to write it? They haven't got anyone. So that's where we step in there. We work with agencies to support them. And we also work with clients who want monthly support. They just want it all done each month. If they've got a project they want doing, like a new website, we'll step in for that. And we also work with companies who have got someone in the business who's doing marketing, but they just need a hand on where to start. So from all those problems, we know who our target audiences are. And so we'll move on to the next 2 columns on this chart for the key messages. So we'll stop here for target audience. And if anyone's got any questions, would you like to ask them now about target audience? No questions. Are you sure? Is anyone going to put their hand up? Oh, maybe I've covered it all.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Sarah. It's Katrina from the Barbecue Barn.
Hello.
Hi. So obviously you've addressed your previous slide pertains to businesses that provide a service. We're in retail, and our demographic is basically anyone who has an outside space. Mm-hmm. But they all have different requirements. They'll all have different budgets.
Yep.
and from a marketing perspective, I want to move away from the generic to the more targeted.
Yeah.
So it's understanding, I guess, some keywords that we should be using. Are there templates that, are specific to, because, different demographics. I guess that's why I've joined today.
Yeah, I'd say go back to what they're looking for. So what's your business? What do you, in a sort of sentence, what do you provide?
So we are a specialist barbecue shop.
Okay.
We don't just sell barbecues. We actually we help create a lifestyle.
Okay. So on the back of that, then you need to think about, why would someone bring you in? Why don't we just all go to B&Q and buy a barbecue and be done with it? What do you bring in on top of that? What's your knowledge? What's your products? What do you give them? Anyone's capable of creating a barbecue in their own garden, more or less. What is it that you offer on top of that? What knowledge have you got? What expertise? What products? Do they want a gas one? Do they want a charcoal one? Do they want one that smokes all the neighbours out? Do they want one that's safe around kids? Do they want it to make pizza? I don't know. There's so many things that that your product will do on top of a regular barbecue that anyone can go and buy from B&Q. And my BBC training tells me that other outlets are available.
Yeah. No. Okay. Right.
It's elevating. It's telling them what they don't know about you.
Okay. So elevate. Okay.
And shine. It's really hard in marketing. All the comms boys and girls in this room will know that it's really easy for us to big up our clients and talk about them. It's really not easy to do that when it's your business. It feels a bit self-indulgent. It feels a bit showy and flashy. But you've got to.
Yeah, I'm not bothered by that. I'm a solicitor by training, so that's the least of my worries.
It is a worry for some people though. So but yeah, it's worth pointing out. Just don't. It really is hard to, even when people write LinkedIn profiles. They come to us to get them to write them because they just can't. They just don't want to bang their own drum.
No, I totally get that. Yeah, absolutely. I think if it was to big up myself, I would struggle, but for my company, I don't. Okay. So really it's identifying what our sort of our USP is, or our...
Absolutely. Yeah. And your USP on top of another company, maybe. Perhaps if someone needs a barbecue on Saturday and it's Wednesday, you can get one to them. Perhaps you're the people that take a bit more time to get them what they need. Perhaps that's your specialism, that you slow things down and say, let's have a look. You can't get it on Saturday, you can have it next month. So there's all different things that you will have put in place, and it'll come back to your values as well. What do you want to offer as a company? Are you the smash and grab, come in, grab barbecue, go home, set it up? Or are you the right, let's see what you want, see what you need, let's future-proof it, let's fit it in with your garden? What have you got? Does it need to, if you've got to put it next to the tiki bar we all built in lockdown or whatever it was? So there's lots of things to definitely consider. But if you're providing them for the lifestyle, then talk about the lifestyle. What happens when they've got one of your barbecues? They can invite their friends around. It looks very nice. The food's amazing. No one has a burnt chicken wing or whatever. What happens when they've got one of your barbecues? How nice is it once it's there?
Right. Okay. I get that really lends itself to what we're about. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, anybody? No. Okay. Well, I'll move on, and there'll be more time to ask some questions at the end. Just going to reorganize my screen. Can I have the next slide, please, Charlie? Thank you. So the next thing we're going to move on to, we've done the target audience. We know who we're trying to say stuff to. And now we need to decide what we're going to say to them. So there'll be something specific, like what we just discussed about with the barbecues. There'll be something specific you want your audience to know about, understand about you and your company and your products, services, and you want them to remember. We need to explain what the value is to them. So as we said earlier, how does it make their life better? What does it improve for them? Because people aren't looking for solutions to big problems that aren't there. You see it on Dragon's Den all the time. They say, oh, it looks like you've created a problem for a solution for a problem that's not there. Don't be those people. Make sure that there is a problem and you find a solution. what is their pain point? So what really needs to be addressed for them? So if we go to the next slide, the first thing to have a look at is core offering, and again, this is a place to start. It's not it's not covering everything, but it's a really good place to start. Core offering. So Hootsuite, for example, their core offering is that you can manage all your socials in one place. We're not logging in here, there, and everywhere anymore. They scooped it all up together and said you can do it all in one place. Lovely, and that's their core offering. So you need to have a look at what you offer, your main thing that you offer that solves a problem for somebody. And again, this might be a different thing for each of your target audiences. It won't be that it might not be that you can use the same core offering for each of them. So have a think about that. Are they looking for the same thing, or they're looking for a similar thing, or something completely different? Your unique selling proposition, your USP, this is your differentiator. So I'll give you an example. My brother-in-law started a plastering company a few years ago, and he said to me, I'm just a plasterer. How am I going to get people to know I'm any good? And I said, well, they'll only find that out by booking you, finding out, having a good job done, and telling their friends, because at the end of the day, you want that good old-fashioned word of mouth recommendation. And I said to him, perhaps be the man with the Hoover. So I said to him, buy a nice Hoover at Henry or something, and be the guy who tidies up at the end of every day, so that when they come back, they don't walk into a house of mess, of plaster and this and that. They come in and they see the job's on the way. It might not be finished, but everything's clean and tidy. So that's what he does now. He's known as the guy who cleans up, and that's what goes forward with him for his customers. They say he does a good job, but they also talk about him tidying up. It's always the person who runs the house, whether that be whatever person is in the house, mum, dad, grandma, whoever it is, they're the one that likes the tidying up bit, and that's a big part of his recommendation on. So yeah, he is just a plasterer. Loads of plasterers out there, but we found him something that's slightly different. So the next thing to have a look at is your specific message. We've just covered this. Go back again, Charlie, sorry. Thank you. What's the specific message? Like I said, they might all be using the same product, but they've got different reasons for using it. So find out what the different reasons are and talk to them about a different reason. So don't talk to the grandmas about using the product in the same way you talk to the children about it. Soap, for example, we all probably use soap, hope so. Everyone's got a different reason for using it. The kids love to bubble it up in the bath. The grandparents probably aren't that bothered about that, whatever. Find out what those different reasons are that they use the product, and tailor your messages around the reasons why they use the product. You're looking to tell them as part of your key messaging what the solution is. We've talked about this a lot. It will keep coming up because at the end of the day, your product or service is filling a gap. It's solving something. It's taking a headache away from them. It's making things better. So tell people what that is. It might be, the next one is price and value. So people don't always buy things on price. I mean, people have a price in mind, they have a budget, but if something is slightly more expensive than they thought it was going to be, but it's going to be worth it, then they will pay the money. There's the phrase, it's worth every penny. So to me, I have a team of freelancers who work with me and a couple of virtual assistants. They cost me money, but it's money well spent because the whole thing runs really well with them. If I was doing it all on my own, it wouldn't work as well. So to me, I pay the money. I'm happy with the value they bring to me. And if their prices went up, I would probably, I shouldn't be saying this because some of them are here, if their prices went up, I would be really likely to say yes, that's fine, because I appreciate the value they bring to my business. If they weren't doing a very good job, I would query that, and that might be something that people think about. Is this product or service worth it? Am I getting what I think I'm paying for it? They've done research on this before, people asking for like a donation of what they think it's worth. People, the difference is always amazing, and it always comes back to if they feel like, how they feel about the product or service. Was it a value to them? Was it what they expected and wanted? So that's that. If we go to the next slide. So by now, hopefully we've looked at who our target audience is. We know what we want, what they need to know. And this is about what to say. Now, you might have a list of, say, 10 key messages, something like that. You might not have as many. It doesn't matter. You have to have key messages that are relevant and work. Don't just try and make a list of arbitrary 5. You know, it might be 3, it might be 10. Which ones are you going to say and when and to who? Like we said, each target audience section might need something different to be said to them. So don't just throw the whole lot at them. Pick which ones are relevant, and also how you say it, the language, vocabulary, tone of voice. It depends who you're talking to. So, you know, if you're a solicitor, for example, you're not gonna, solicitors used to speak quite formally, their websites will be all very formal. They're moving away from that, some of them, but they certainly aren't going to fill their comms with tech speak, unless of course their niche is youngsters who love tech speak and they're going to do that for them. You know, that could be a thing. I doubt it, but you need to think about your language, vocabulary and tone of voice depending on who you're talking to. Stay respectful, stay relevant, get into their heads, find out what language they do use. It might not be your language you use every day, but you've got to put that aside. You've got to talk to your target audiences in the language that resonates with them. I would just say be careful around jargon. Don't use industry words. I know I've used one today. I said the word copy when I should have said content or text or writing. I've worked with a mortgage advisor for a long time, and she does financial planning now and everything, and she always talks about protection when she means insurance. So the punter's word is insurance, the industry phrase is protection. You've got to use the words that are basically going to get searched on Google. No one's going to search house protection or life protection. They're going to search home insurance, life insurance. Use your audience's words, the words that they're familiar with. Next slide, please, Charlie. And then once you've got it all tied up, once you know what you're saying and who to, you've got to think about where you're going to say it to. There's so many channels now. You've got your public channels that anyone can see. You've got your website, socials, your advertising. You've got to make sure that wherever you say it, your target audience is going to see it. So if you're talking to train commuters, you probably don't want to put it on a taxi or something where it's nowhere near a train station, that sort of thing. Think about the relevance of where it's going. You might also be doing some more private comms, which is direct marketing to people on your database, so mailers, letters, calls. Not everyone will see it. It's not for entire public consumption. Those ones will be written in a slightly different way, much more personal tone, because they're already a customer or interested, they've signed up. So you need to have a slightly different way you say it there and where you say it. And the next thing to do is think about when to say it. We've worked with clients before who are not thinking about this. They're not thinking about, is this the time of year to say it? Is it the time of day? Is it the day of the week to say it? Is there a sensitivity around it? When the Queen died, there was a big blackout on everything, being sold, and we had a client putting social posts out about buy our stuff, and it was really bad taste. So think about that kind of stuff. When I worked at the NHS, we did a big campaign on for breastfeeding mothers, and we put loads of our social posts out and sent our mailers to them overnight, because that's the time when they're probably awake doing it, scratching their head saying, why won't this baby feed? I was one of those, and they're scrolling through their timeline, and a text post would pop up 2 a.m. about breastfeeding. It's the time they potentially want it. We did do some in the day as well, but we knew that audience were awake, likely to be awake overnight, so that's when we were putting those posts out. If you're selling a Christmas event, for example, don't do too much on it until probably at least September, because while the sun's shining and we've got nice strappy tops on, thinking about holidays and buying suntan lotion, we're not really thinking ahead to book in Christmas tickets for anything. So you might spend a lot of money marketing your Christmas event in June and go, oh, no one are selling any tickets, when that marketing budget would have been better spent as the schools go back and summer finishes and we all start going on the slippery slope down to autumn and into Christmas. So think about your timing. Next slide, please, Charlie. So this is back to our table we had before. The first two columns we've talked to, it's the problem and what solution they're after. And the second 2 columns give you your key messages, really. Out of here, you can pluck out all of your key messages. So I'm not going to get you to read all of that through. I've summarised it in the next slide, please, Charlie. for our clients, what they're looking for are these things from us. This is what they come to. This is what they want at the end of it. They come to us with their problems, and this is what they want at the end. So they want us to write in excellent English, so it makes sense. They want it done on time. They want time made to do it. There's 2 ideas of time there. They want good ideas behind it, researched ideas. They sometimes want a fast delivery. They definitely want it delivered when we say we're going to deliver it or when they need it. They want a repurposing of the copy so that one piece of content goes a very long way. It gets turned into a blog or a social or a mailer, advertising. We're here when we're there when they need us to be. So if they need something written, we get it done, completed, and deadlines are met. When they're left to their own devices, they may not be meeting any of these. So that's why they outsource to us. So we know that these are the solutions we deliver. Next slide, please, Charlie. We're almost there, folks, you'll be pleased to know. So the last bit to think about in your key messages is nothing to do with your services and products. It's all to do with you. So back to blowing your own trumpet, back to telling them how wonderful you are, how invested you are in them and what their values are. So be authentic, be real, share who you are if you can, share your background. People love a human interest story. What's, you know, in the words of Scylla, what's your name? Where'd you come from? People love to know that stuff because they start to identify with you, feel like you've got something in common. They also want to know that you're a good company, probably. It's a big thing to know. Who are your affiliations? Who do you support? What's your supply chain like? Is it, if you say you're going to be sustainable, make sure you are. What are you doing in your community or with a charity? Talk about it because it makes you look like really nice people and people love to see that stuff. And then your corporate social responsibility, this is a big one. And you can do a lot or a little. I was talking to a client the other day and she said, oh God, I just feel like I just, you know, all I can do is throw money at something. I said, so do that then. Make a commitment to give a donation of whatever it is each month, each year to a charity. And that's it. She just hasn't got time to be doing cake sales and, you know, charity treks and things like that. But she does want to make a difference. So that's what she's going to do. She's going to talk about that she gives this regular donation. Charities love a regular donation, so it suits them. So yeah, she's not going all out doing lots of stuff, but she's doing something. And you really have to talk about it if you are doing something. And that's it. Questions on key messages, if you'd like to ask any. This is what I just said, really.
Sarah, can I ask a question? Well,
yeah,
in relation to when you were saying back about people not necessarily just buy it on price, they look for a difference. We've just moved to a new home and we're looking at the double glazing at the moment because it's quite old. And speaking with my husband, and he turned and said that we've had 3 different quotes, but we are literally going for maybe the more expensive one. It's only by little margins, but because they actually itemised what the door would be, where everybody else is just door block. And he said, you know exactly what information, so you know what you're getting. And I think it's given him a bit of peace of mind. And that's what you're saying there, really. But
you're paying for that extra bit, aren't you? You're in your mind, you're saying they've given me something extra and I'm happy to pay for it.
Yeah, like going back to the barbecue barn people, you know, it's like it's literally itemizing everything you're doing in, and so they can see what quality of stuff they're getting in relation to just a barbecue or this type of brickwork or that type of slate, you know, whatever. So yeah, when you just said it, I thought, oh yeah, it sort of comes home to somebody who's not in marketing.
And it's all subliminal stuff. You know, if you're going to send a proposal out, you know, I could send a proposal out saying, here's your proposal for us to rewrite your website, X amount of money. But I don't do that. I put a list of everything I'm going to do for them. I'm going to liaise with the web guy. I'm going to do 2 rounds of amends. I'm going to test it. I'm going to proof it. I'm going to give it to somebody else to have a look at before we go live, because they've never seen it before. They're going to look at it with completely fresh eyes and check everything works, check that picture works with that box. You know, we make sure we list all that so they can see the value that's being delivered. And
also we're going to have some, like, because it's a window, we're going to make it to like a little French door. And they're going to do all the building work as well. So where the other people would have to get that other person in to do that,
Yep.
And so it's like a one-stop shop that, you know, everything that's going to be done is being held responsible by the one company.
Yeah, so one-stop shop is a really good idea. People do like to streamline things. So if you can offer a few things, or, you know, at IzzyPR, we don't offer, I don't have a graphic designer employed with me. I use a couple of outsourced, they're trusted, but my client doesn't need to ring them up and sort it out.
No,
It's all managed by us. Yeah, so, and if your company does the same thing, if you work with associates of other suppliers, they might not be your staff, but as long as the customer knows that you organise that person and they haven't got to make those calls and do another invoice and book them in again, the more you can take, it's a pain point again, the more you can take away. So your pain point is you need 2 jobs doing and one company can do them both.
That's
so
right.
they're probably the ones you're going to go with because you deal with one person and it's all coordinated. It just works for you. You may pay more for that because they're going to probably add a markup onto the other supplier, but you're happy to pay for that because it makes your life easier.
Yeah, true. So that's probably the route we're going to go. So it just rang bells. Nothing. Oh yes,
that makes sense now.
Yeah. So I'll leave it to someone else now.
Yeah, we've got Peter George with his hand up.
Yes. Morning.
Hello.
One of the issues that we have, our main work really is helping homeowners, developers, contractors discharge planning conditions on a new basement or 100 new houses or whatever it is. And one particular issue we have is that in London, there are 2 local authorities for which we charge an awful lot more than working in other local authorities, because you know, our initial desktop report, which is a sort of assessment of the site and, you know, do we think there might be a problem, yes or no, you know, we're charging 50% more to do those reports in those boroughs. And so if I quote for a job, we get an inquiry in from a new developer. One, I would like to say to them, oh, by the way, we charge this amount in this borough because they're unbelievably difficult and ridiculously picky. But clearly I can't say that because at some point that information is going to be fed back to the local environmental health officer. And then, you know, our life is going to be absolute misery. So, you know, how to maybe, you know, I don't know.
How to dress it up? Are you wondering how to dress that up? Yeah, well, if you're asking how to sort of make that, say it without saying it, but what I'm thinking is, what are the chances of someone having a quote for you for one borough and then finding out it's really expensive in the other borough and going, oh, hang on, you charge just this for borough A and this for borough B, what's the difference? Is that likely to come up? Are people comparing notes like that?
Well, I mean, my concern is that, you know, if their next job is somewhere else, they've already decided that we were quite expensive in you know, borough A, so they're never going to ask us again in the other.
Okay. So that's part of the conversation around the onboarding then, isn't it? I think that it's worth explaining to them that the process for the expensive boroughs is more involved, and it's reflected in your fee. You don't have to say they're a pain in the bum or anything like that. You just dress it up a bit more nicely, as you know, there's more work, there's more of a process, there's more hoops to jump through. You know, you can really soften the language to move away from it just takes ages to, you know, it's just it's a different job. A different job explains quite a lot. Those words, it's a different job to the other borough. This borough requires this borough requires that. And if they come back and say, no, we're not going to go with you, then that's your opportunity to go back and say, okay, that's a shame. But if you are doing any other work, you know, we do work in these other boroughs as well. These are the quotes will be different for these boroughs because it's a quicker process, needs less from us. So do come back to us again. We'd love to speak to you again. Don't lose them as a customer. Don't let them go. Keep in touch with them. And if you know that they're doing a particular project, maybe just give them a call 6 months down the line, see your projects. All right, how's it going? You know, just be friendly about it. You know, just have that little touch point. That's just a phone call for you, minutes, not even sort of even time that you would think about billing in your mind, is it? But just you know, don't let them go as a customer. If there's different, like you said, they might not come back to you because they've had the really expensive quote from you, and you know, but just explain the reasons. It's a bigger process, a bigger job. That's why we have to charge differently. You know, with me, if I'm doing a website that's 5 pages or a 12-page website, it's going to be a different cost. There's more to it. But the client coming to me going, oh, but you did a website for my mate and it was like it was like this amount of money. And I'm like, yeah, but your one's like twice the size, so it's going to be more. Just explain it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, it's very silent. Marketing, communications, friends. Anyone else got anything they want to add at all? Is there anything I've missed out or you'd like to add? Or
it's Katrina again.
Hello, Katrina.
Hi. So yeah, it's interesting, the conversation you've just had. So in retail, it's quite different, because your prices are upfront, you know, whether you're online, you're in store. And I mean, it depends. You know, some customers want a deal. Most of our customers are at you know, because our products are at a price point where, you know, basically you're not going to find them in B&Q, basically.
Yeah, they're premium products, maybe. Yeah,
you know, they're high end, they've got like 10-year plus warranty, etc., and they're not going to fall apart after 2 years. But you'll still have somebody who will want a deal. Now, more and more of our suppliers are tying us into contracts where you can't discount.
Right.
But you will have the odd competitor who will just ignore that, to their detriment in the long term, because they won't get the supplies going forward, you know. But you know, so how would we counter the fact, you know, if someone's coming in, they want a price match, we can't do it now. At the minute, we're being honest with them, we're just saying, look, we've got a legal agreement, we can't do it, we certainly can't put anything in writing. You know, we might be able to give you, you know, free bag of charcoal or something like that. But without actually saying, you know, well, we're a specialist barbecue shop, and you know what we're talking about, we're experienced, we've got over 50 years experience collectively as you know, people using barbecues. A lot of that doesn't necessarily wash with the individuals who want a deal.
Well, then it might be that they're simply not your target audience. If they're the people going after price and price alone, and they don't value your 50 years experience and all the things you know and all the things you bring, and maybe a free bag of charcoal, and the fact that, you know, if they do have any questions, I mean, I'm assuming they can just phone you if they have any questions after setup, or you know,
they can come into the shop. I mean, this is the US, you know, we've got the shops as well, unlike the online retailers who are, you know, they're now basically disappearing because they don't want to pay their Bibble or their Sybil, so they're reinventing themselves. They, you know, they pop up again tomorrow as something else.
Well,
you know,
I mean, that's part of it as well, isn't it? You've got a shop is an overhead, so you've got to reflect that in your prices. I would just think if their main reason for turning you down is price, they are simply not your target audience. Let them go somewhere else. Concentrate on the ones that are going to spend their money with you. Don't chase the ones that are going to reduce your margins. Unless, of course, there's a reason to do that, a loss leader reason. But that just, it's hard to accept, but they're just not your tribe.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's good for me. Thank you.
Okay. I don't think we've got any more questions. Terry, I'll hand back to you, I think.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. That was really good. Thank you very much. And just letting everybody know to look on the website, because there's quite a few more webinars coming up, as well as events that we've got going on in the evening. So we've got the Bromley Lincoln Drink this evening. We've got 65 people attending that tonight. We've also got an office drinks in Sidcup. What used to be Beadle's Land Rover is now called Group 1 Automotive. And then we've also got another webinar about online about how to employ overseas workers. So that could be quite interesting. So thank you ever so much, everybody. It's been really good, and we'll catch you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.